Roger Brown is Norway's most successful headhunter. He helps rich clients to prepare for their interviews with top companies, and while doing this, he gets information about his clients, including if they have any valuable paintings in their houses. Even when the house is empty, after getting this information, he will work with his partner Ove, who works at a surveillance company, to deactivate the CCTV cameras in the client's house and steal their artwork. He does this for a long time, and he gains much wealth from it. So much that it gets him married to a beautiful wife, Diana, who owns an art gallery. He admits that for someone like him to get what he wants in life, he has to ensure he is rich. He claims he doesn't like the house he lives, nor he can afford the home. But he is living in the house regardless because of Diana, because she likes it. While he told her that he inherited the money for the house, she didn't know that the only thing he inherited was bad genes. That morning, he gifts her a costly bag, which she appreciates. The only thing he finds difficult to give her is the one thing that she craves the most, which is a child. He watches her as she goes to hug the neighbor's child and comes to tell him the boy is very cute. He drives her to her art gallery and he watches her admitting that ladies like her are very beautiful and that they can get anything they want. So to love them, you must show them love. And that is what he's trying to do. He goes to his mistress, Lottie's house. After they finish making out, she serves him coffee and asks him if he has a plan for the next day, because she wants to follow him somewhere. He refuses to follow her, reminding her she isn't meant to tell anyone about them. He leaves after telling her that they don't exist. He goes to work where he works with one of his clients, Lander, for his interview at a top company named Pathfinder. He asks Lander about his family, and Lander says he's married with 2 children, and his wife works at a bank. He says he doesn't have a maid, and his children attend school. He asks Lander about his reputation, and Lander says he has artwork, although not too expensive. He tells Lander to work on his reputation and says that Lander should reject the job. And if he does that, he will get a better offer that will be much more than the one he is looking for. After he leaves work, he receives a call from his account manager who tells him about his massive withdrawal. He says it's for Diana's gallery opening, but his account manager reminds him that he is gradually getting bankrupt. He calls Ove and gives him Lander's address, and that day he goes to Lander's house and steals his artwork. After selling it and sharing the profit that comes from the sale with everyone involved in it, he got a profit of just about $80,000, which he claims isn't enough at all, and he has to do better. He goes to Diana's gallery opening, and at the event she introduces him to a man, Kles, who had just relocated from the Netherlands. After Diana goes to receive a call, he asks Kles why he had relocated, and Kles reveals that he came to inherit his mother's estate in Norway, and he had decided to have an early retirement. He claims he was the former executive of a company named Hot, which had just been sold, and Roger tells him about Pathfinder's recruitment. Kles refuses to apply but convinces him to have lunch with him on Monday. At the gallery launch, he also meets Breed Spear, a detective specializing in art theft, and comments that Roger must be earning a lot to pay for the expensive earrings Diana is putting on. At home, Diana tells Roger about a costly artwork, Rubens, which is worth millions and had been lost for years but was with Kles's grandmother, and Kles had inherited it. He tells her they must celebrate and he is sure their future is safe. After the conversation, Roger calls Ove asking to meet him the next day. The following day, as he is about to leave, Diana confronts him about the issue of having children, and they argue before he leaves. He meets with Ove and briefs him about how important the job is before Ove's mistress, Natasha, enters to interrupt them. He tells Ove that he has a meeting with Chris on Monday and he will find out when his house will be empty. So, Ove should get the fake painting the following day. Ove hesitates because he has to be with Natasha the next day because he has planned with his guards to take videos of their private affairs, but he convinces Ove and he accepts. He meets with Chris on Monday and Chris accepts the interview. But to get more information about Chris invites him to a squash game. During the game, Chris reveals that he is divorced with no child, but he has a dog that is presently in Amsterdam, and he will bring the dog in 2 days. He also asks that they have the interview in 2 days. Roger sees injuries on Kress, and Kress reveals that he worked in the army to find missing people, and they used devices from Hot. The following day, Roger successfully steals the painting. On his way out of the house, he looks through the window and sees kids playing around. He remembers how much Diana wanted kids, so he calls her but hears her phone ringing in Kress's house, signifying that she's having an affair with Kress. He asks her about her phone at home, and she claims she forgot it at the office. After Kress interviews, he tells him he has to delay writing the recommendation letter because he needs to consider other candidates, which angers Kress. On his way out of the office, he meets Lottie, who tries to talk with him and robs his head. He gets home and informs Diana about Cress, telling her he will ensure Cress doesn't get any work in Norway. The following day, he sees Ove dead in his car and sees a poison syringe has killed him. He packs Ove inside the trunk of the car and drives off. He takes him to a stream to dispose of the body. As he throws it off, Ove wakes. He sees that Ove hasn't absorbed the poison well, so he survives, and he drives Ove home. He refuses to take Ove to the hospital so they won't get caught, and Ove starts shooting him. In self-defense, he shoots Ove back and Ove dies. He comes out and sees Cress around. He starts driving off and sees Cress has tracked him, so he throws off his clothes and disposes of his car, then takes Ove's car and wears his spare uniform. He goes to a cabin where Ove stays, and he hides there. Cress also arrives with his dog. When the farmer who owns the cabin refuses to let him go, Cress kills him, but unfortunately Roger sights him from afar off and hides. He escapes later and takes a tractor. Unfortunately, Cress's dog catches up with him and tries to kill him, but he kills the dog and runs off. He sees someone chasing him and assumes it's Cress, so he drives into the bush, but it turns out to be another man. Roger eventually wakes up in the hospital and finds out the police have arrested him. On their way to the police station, he realizes they had mistaken him for Ove and accuses him of killing the farmer. He also recalls Cress speaking about a hot gel that can track someone and recalls Diana kissing him and rubbing his head, so he assumes Diana betrayed him. He sees a truck coming and the officers go to stop the truck, but he realizes the driver is Cress. Cress hits them, but he survives and pretends to be dead, so Cress leaves. He comes out later, shaves his head, and goes to Lottie's place for comfort. He notices Lottie sending someone a message. He confronts her and discovers she works with Cress, who still works with Holt. Holt needs Pathfinder's technology, so he needs the job, and Lottie's job is to connect Cress to Roger, but she fails when she can't get Roger to meet Cress. So Cress devises another means, which is to use Diana and the artwork, which worked until Roger refused to give him the job. When Roger tries to get water, Lottie attacks him, and he kills her in self-defense. Since he is sure his wife is still loyal, he returns home and Diana confesses about her infidelity and apologizes. He also confesses about who he really is, and she gets angry that he could become a thief to buy her things she doesn't need. He says he has always feared that he would lose her, and they hugged. The following day, Diana sends a message to meet Kless. The message meets Kless at the point where he is going for his last Pathfinder interview. Meanwhile, Roger steals the hair he left at the accident spot, and Spear feels something off when he goes to check the spots. He takes the hair to Ove's place, then Cress traces it and came there. He tells Roger that Diana is back to him, and says he wants to know why Roger had taken the hair back when he knew that Cress could trace it. Cress shoots him, and Roger shoots back. He reveals his gun is filled with blanks, and that was what Diana came to do. Cress takes the gun Roger had killed Ove with and shoots it at Roger, but Roger dodges the attack and kills Cress. Turns out the security was watching the scene, and Roger purposely stayed at a camera-blind place. He did that to show that two art thieves killed each other after killing a farmer, a lady, and a dog. Everyone believed that, but Spear still feels something off because of the time of Ove's death, which is way longer than the time of the video. However, because he knows his reputation as a great detective will be destroyed, he doesn't press further on. Later, Roger is seen telling heavily pregnant Diana goodbye. He goes to work and meets with the Pathfinder representatives. He gives the job to Lander, and the movie ends.